What's up guys, EJK here. Today's video is going to be between Maru and Life on Deadwing, and I picked this game after looking through a bunch of Maru TVZ games because I thought it would be one of the better examples to show a Maru macro game that turns into his multi-pronged aggression, this trademark unit positioning and unit usage that we've been seeing from Maru throughout this entire tournament, and there's finally a lot of replays to study them. And so this is me breaking down one of the games from the finals between Maru and Life. Here it is. So, oops, that way, yeah. This video is going to explain the build orders of both Maru and Life. I will attach a document containing Maru's simplified build order right here so that you guys can use it on ladder. Or, no, it's fourth. Because I think one of the big things that my videos doesn't do is that it helps you understand what's going on, but if you actually want to use the build order, then this is the actual build order from it so that you can follow it, and you can actually copy Maru as well as your ability, as well as your ability can. It's really hard to copy Maru because he's so good. And then we're going to examine how Maru sets up his double-pronged attacks and the goals that he wants to achieve with them. And we're also going to be taking a look at Life's point of view as well, so that we can understand how what kind of build Maru is doing, and then what kind of build Life is doing, and how they interact with each other. Alright, so I first want to take a look at Life's gameplay. It's quite interesting, in fact. I would say the three goals, or the main goals of Life's gameplay, is to drone up really hard. So his style is based on getting to 4 bases and to getting up to about 80-ish drones, a little more than 80, like 81 to 83 on 4 bases without the gas. He has a minimal emphasis on creep spread. He has a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, I believe 5 or 6 queens injecting, and then he'll have maybe 1 for creep spread, but he doesn't have an active queen for when creep spread gets cleared. Right here, he's going to see that Maru has gone command center first. This is a very good Overlord positioning placement on this map because there's nothing a Terran player can do to deny it, along with the fact that you can also see like a reactor, a tech lab. It takes a long time to put the buildings here for the Terran player, and you don't want to put them there either, because when Mutalisks harass you, then it becomes a lot harder to deal with them when they're on the edge. But if it's over here, it's easier for Mutas to deal with it, but it's easier for Overlords to scout it. So the first important scouting information that Life does is going to be around the 6-minute 30 mark. I believe it's when the starport finishes. He pokes his Overlord in. He luckily sees a starport. He also sees the second gas as well, which is really nice. And he sees the tech lab as well. So he already knows it's going to be Cloak Banshees, and his response is to do a lot of droning up. He's still going to make the Spine Crawler in case of Hellbats. And the Hellion Harass as well is going to be very annoying. So adding that Spine Crawler not only keeps him safe against unscouted Hellbat pressure, but it also allows him to drone up very greedily. As we see here, he has 5 queens, and that's his only defense. Very minimal defense. He doesn't even have any transfuses saved up quite just yet. And then he has 1 queen transfusing at each base. So what I was talking about earlier on was Life's goal here is to get up to maximum drone saturation, or optimal drone saturation, I should say, on 4 bases. So we already see he has 16 over here, he has 17 there, and then he has 9 over here, and he's going to produce another round of drones to get this base fully saturated. The second timing that Life is going to use to scout is to scout whether this build is going to be into mech or into bio play. So this Overlord is going to scout in about half a minute here, and he's going to see everything. So he sees the barracks, he sees the cloak banshees, but the most important thing is that he sees the barracks, so he knows it's going to be bio play. And it's very early scouting. If you were to scout for mech, you'd be able to adapt to your play very fast. I also want to take a look at, or just note that Life's Spore Crawler placement here. He has built 4 Spore Crawlers, 1 at each mineral line, and then he has 1 more right here to protect his units. And like his Spine Crawler, it can be very annoying if you don't have detection over here, because then you're forced backwards. Your queens can't defend the high ground over here because the Cloak Banshees will be able to reign supreme without the detection. So getting a Spore Crawler over here, like where your kind of like rally point is quite important. Life's rally point about right there. And I also want to note that Life's Overlord spread is quite poor. And by that I mean he has 2 Overlords over here that are spread out, but he has 2 more doing nothing. He has another one doing nothing, another one doing nothing, and another one doing nothing. It's quite interesting because this is an Overlord I clicked, like that's being made. He has his rally point currently over here, all of his hatcheries. What he does is he does not inject units, or he does not like create units and then add them into a hotkey as eggs. He'll add them into a hotkey after they've already produced. So his Overlords, they just pop out and then they usually just rally towards wherever he wants, wherever the rally point is. Like that Overlord's just going over there. And then what Life will do is he will manually move them somewhere else, which is not, like, he has 0 Overlords over here. He doesn't have an Overlord over here, or over here. He has not a single Overlord out on the map either. Now, I think this might be also in response to the fact that there could be a Viking out on the field after you get 2 Banshees. A Viking is a very good possibility to follow up, and you don't want to lose more Overlords than you have to. And then towards the mid to late stages of the game, we see Life's Overlord spread has almost 0 progression to it. There's just big clumps of Overlords that aren't actually doing anything after the Mutalisks are out. But I think that's more towards the fact that Maru is being so aggressive and isn't giving Life any chance to breathe and to actually get his Overlords spread out. Although I could be wrong though, because I've seen Life have almost 0 Overlord spread in a lot of games. He does not like to spread out his Overlords, and he relies on solid timings and Ling scouts rather than Overlord scouts to know where his opponent is. Alright, so the build Life is doing, he's already at 70 drones before the 10-minute mark, which is insane economy for him. And he's also taking a 4th base, which did get cancelled, I believe, by Banshees earlier on. Yep, it got cancelled. And he didn't get the save on it either, which is kind of unfortunate. But he's taking a very fast 4th base, and this is all in response to Maru's play, which we'll cover in just a little bit. And then more units being made, more units being made. This is a very slow layer as well. It's almost a 10-minute layer. And Life is also taking his hatchery before his macro hatch. I see a lot of Zerg players take a macro hatch before their 4th base, but you can do this when you know what your opponent is doing. And when your opponent has bio like this, and especially on these positions in Dead Wing, where this 4th base isn't so hard to defend, you can take the 4th base, or you can take the macro hatch on as the 4th base. It's not necessarily a 4th base because Life is going to be using a queen to transfuse it. That's also how he gets so much larva, because he has so many hatcheries being injected with queens constantly on top of good creep spread, or good injects by the queens. I like how he has these lings over here as well. I believe they're just waiting there to either scout something that's coming across or to become into a small counterattack. Although it's not quite enough for a counterattack, but it does do its job. Scouting a drop that comes across. And then, so just looking at Life's vision, this is the first harass that comes in. It kills a drone. It doesn't do too bad. These Cloak Banshees are what's real heroes, because Life doesn't really have a lot of defense for Cloak Banshees. What he has is, that was a very nice spore by Life to kind of make this drop a lot more annoying and make it harder to get around the mineral line. He also has another spore there. But the reason why he has multiple spores in his main base already is because his Mutalisks are just being started now, and it's already 12 minutes into the game. So he's delayed his Mutalisk production to reach the maximum drone saturation as fast as possible. And so Mutalisks are generally used to counter Banshees if your opponent has gone for Banshee play. And since Life has delayed Mutalisks so much, he's going to have to be reliant on Spore Crawlers and Queens to deal with the Mutalisks, or to deal with the Cloak Banshees until the Mutalisks come out. And as a result, Maru is able to do some very nice unit positioning over here. He used the Banshees to great effect, sniping off a bunch of Banelings, so that when the bio retreated, Life lost a lot of units just being there because there was nothing that shot up. These Lings scouting this medevac force over here, and immediately Life reacts and sends units to his third base. And this is what I was talking about. There's only one queen. Is the other queen over here? I think one queen got picked off by the medevacs. Life does not rely on queens a lot. He has a very heavy emphasis, I'm going to say it again, on economy, not creep spread. Getting queens does not equal getting economy, because although you can get a lot of injects with these massive amounts of queens, it's really the drones that getting up to an optimal drone saturation, which allows you to get a very good economy. And unfortunately, Life doesn't replenish these 11 drones for, I think, the rest of the game. And that's really going to cause a little damper to his economy. It's going to decrease his mineral income by a couple hundred, which means it's going to be a bit more difficult for him to replenish as much as he'd like, and to also add these two gases eventually and tech into Hive. But for right now, there's 2 queens being built. So there's going to be 2 queens for the 2 macro hatches, 1 queen here for the macro hatch, queen here for the macro hatch, and then 1 queen being built over there. I don't know what that queen is doing. I think it got misrallied, and that's why Life is remaking this queen. But Life does not have any emphasis on spreading creep. He has 3 active creep tumors on the map. He's not focused on spreading his creep at all, and he doesn't have any queens to replenish them as well. He's just focused on making a crap ton of units. He is always going to have a lot of larvae available to him because he has 5 whole queens injecting creep, or injecting tumors. No, oh my god, injecting into the hatcheries. So that he's always going to have a lot of larvae available to him. That's why he's always going to be able to keep his money low, and he's always able to produce a very crazy amount of Lings. So that pretty much covers Life's opener. And he still hasn't replenished those drones, which is really hurting his economy by a couple hundred minerals per minute. And so it's going to make it a lot harder to transition out of this very layer-heavy style that Life is doing. It's a very good opener, mid-game or early to mid-game opener, to get a very good economy going for him. But enough about Life. We're going to take a look at Maru now, because that's all we really want to see. So, I said before, and I'll say it again, I did copy the build order down in case anyone is interested in trying this game out. I will also be streaming later today, doing this same exact build, so that if you guys want to see it done as well, then feel free to check out my stream too. I'll probably link that in the description somewhere. But yeah, this is all part of trying to make build orders that these pro gamers do a lot a lot more easier to copy if you're a lower level player and you think, hey, this is a cool build. If only I wish I could do it as well. Well, I'm gonna try to like give as many tools as possible, like this video, to explain decision making, the build order, so that you can learn the build order, and just as much as possible so that you guys can try this on ladder and have the best effect and to imitate the pro gamers to the best of your abilities. Maru, he already knows where his opponent is, so he doesn't send an SCV scout because that Overlord came in very early and went over here, so he knows that life is over here. He also isn't worried about cheese, so he doesn't necessarily feel like scouting the third base immediately because he is getting very fast cloak banshees on the way as well. A very safe opener, which also allows for a lot of aggressive capabilities. Just scouting over there, sees the spore crawler, sees the spine crawler, so he knows that life is pretty much in a very defensive position. By having that spine crawler instead of like another queen or a bunch of speedlings is a pretty big tell that your opponent is not going to be going for some sort of roach baneling bust. I see the first Banshee coming across. It's not gonna do much. The primary purpose of the Banshee is to force out spore crawlers. 4 spore crawlers does equal 4 drone kills, along with 75 minerals spent. So that's about 300 mineral defense. That's like the equivalent of 3 turrets for 2 Banshees with cloak, along with 4 drones and 4 larvae. And all that lost mining time by not having those extra drones. So Banshee does a lot more damage than you think. And then when it gets 2 drone kills like that, you think, wow, that's a sweet deal for getting a couple Banshees. But really, Banshee's not there to do any damage. It's just to make sure that there are spore crawlers in place. It's always nice to pick at these queens, try to prevent it from getting creep off. And then the next timing attack against a very normal standard macro game by life is to deny the 4th base for as long as possible. So Maru immediately goes to the 4th base, first to check that it's actually there, and then second to deny it, because there's not actually a way that the Zerg player can keep that 4th base alive. Maybe if he had a spore there and a lot more queens, then that would be a much heavier investment into defense than you would want, and he would not be able to get that very high drone count that he would like as well. So the Banshees, they killed the 4th base, denied it. They force out all the defense, check. Banshees have paid for themselves pretty much. And then now they're also able to kill off a bunch of creep tumors as well. Not able to get all of them, but he did get a couple active creep tumors, and that's going to stop life's creep spread from getting too out of control quite yet. What Maru also likes to do is the first 2 medevacs he uses them in a drop to set up one of his to set up a positioning to create a multi-pronged attack with the follow-up drop. Instead of going for clearing creep with the first 2 medevacs like you normally see players do, instead he's going to be lifting them up and dropping them into the main. And the Banshees are also going to be a big help here as well because of this airspace, the relative inaccessibility that the queens have to actually stop the Banshees from doing damage. So like these first 2 medevacs, they immediately go to the 4th base. They could go to the main as well, like go to the main then hop to the 4th base, but Maru decides to go to the 4th base and hop to the main because it's closer, it's the closest positioning, and then he can speed boost to the main. And then he has the 2 Banshees as well, so by going here, it allows the 2 Banshees to come and have some fun as well. And then the next medevacs are about to pop out. He was a bit supply blocked, so his medevac timing isn't as crisp as he would like. But basically, now what he's doing is he is keeping life busy. These units, he's trying to keep these units alive as long as possible, but he is also trying to keep life occupied in a single position for as long as possible as well. And by that I mean life has a pretty decent army supply, and he has all of these units that are focused on defending these 2 areas. So when Maru hits over here or over here, unfortunately it was delayed because his medevac timing was off. He only has 4 medevacs. Oh, there it is. So he has 4 medevacs, and then as soon as he gets his 3rd and 4th medevacs, he's going to speed boost over in this direction, and then drop over there or drop over there. And that is how he's going to force life into multiple positions to defend, and that's really where he gets a lot of his damage done, because because Marines are very tricky units to kill, and unless you have Mutalisks out, you can't actually shut this down. And seeing how fast the 4th base was by life, Maru pretty much can recognize and safely assume that these Mutalisks are not going to be out for quite a while. If these 2 medevacs had been picked up a little bit earlier, he would have gotten them before the Mutalisks came. Unfortunately, his drop defense, or life's in the right spot, first of all, and second of all, he's not really paying attention. It's getting a bit late. The drops weren't quite as lined up as he'd like. If the medevacs were out a bit faster and he loaded that drop up a bit faster, he'd be able to be attacking over here and then attacking over here. He still gets it to a decent effect. Those Widow Mines killing a good amount of drones. And then the Mutalisks are also being kept busy as well. It's important to drop in multiple places because until the Mutalisks are out, these drops cannot be punished. And until these Mutalisks are out, these drops will not stop as well. And the Mutalisks have the capability of cleaning up these drops, but they do not have the capability of splitting up into multiple positions and cleaning up the drops. So they will only be able to get rid of 1 drop at a time. And then we see here Maru also pushing out with his 5th and 6th medevacs. He's clearing creep with it. So the first 2 medevacs go over here. The second 2 medevacs can go, they went over there, but they can also go over there as well. And then the 5th and 6th medevacs, they're over here clearing creep. So if you, like, there are games where Maru will be able to do a lot of damage and then to pick up his Marines, and then like he could safely camp there, he can safely camp there. There's a lot of areas where the Mutalisks can't chase. He can drop over here, then come over here. And it would take a long time for the Zergling Baneling army to get over into these positions to clean it up. And by the time they do that, then Maru can just drop over here again. He's also clearing the creep. So this 3-pronged attack by Maru, it was done a bit sloppily, but there's a lot of execution involved in making sure that your units are in the right positioning to get it to work. And we see, after he clears the creep, after he gets rid of the vision, unfortunately he didn't get rid of enough vision. These medevacs we're seeing just in range, picking up and boosting away if life was paying attention. He's going to try to do another, like, he's done a decent amount of damage now, and that was actually a lot of damage from those Widow Mines. But the goal is to just constantly put the pressure on and attack in multiple positions. So Maru is going to be kind of like jabbing part of the Zerg player with these 2 medevacs, and then jabbing again with this like group of army to push the creep spread back. And then he always rallies his units. He always rallies his units either towards a parade push or towards a base to keep it defensive. So if life somehow snuck some lings and banelings like over here or over here and he tried to do a counterattack, it wouldn't necessarily work out very well because there's a lot of units over here. So Maru, this is another 3-pronged front. However, this time there is 1 form of aggression, 2 forms of aggression, and then 1 form of defense as well. So it's 2 offensive, 1 defensive, instead of being 3 offensive. And so it's still a 3-pronged attack. It's just not all 3 of them are actually being used for an attack. This gets a good amount of damage. And again, Maru is just able to boost away from this army. Life is able to do nothing to clean it up. He's able to get enough Marines out on the ground so that Life cannot fight with his Mutalisks. He only has 11. And so he's able to escape with that drop relatively freely, even though there are Mutalisks out on the map. Different maps will have different positionings where you can hide your army, and you can hide your army from the Mutalisks so that the drop can't be chased down by like this Bailing force without forcing it very, very far out of position. Now we see Maru, he's doing a multi-pronged attack again, but this time it's just a two-pronged attack. He has the brunt of his army over here, clearing creep and doing a frontal assault, and then he has this group of units over here doing attacks. He's actually splitting them up over here just because he wants to stay with that three-pronged attack. I actually forgot he did this, so I spoke a bit soon. But he is again, he's going for the three-pronged attack. It's always a three-pronged attack by Maru. Nothing more, nothing less. If he can help it. And although the prongs weren't as strong over here, what they did was they forced a lot of Life's army, including the Mutalisks, back to actually deal with it. So even though it might have looked like a slightly cost-inefficient engagement, Maru was able to get some good creep spread damage done. And then as a result, Life kind of attacks off creep, which is not the best thing that you want to do as a Zerg player. I believe he's at 62 workers right now. Yeah, he doesn't have full saturation at 3 of his bases actually, so his income is very poor. Yes, that is 62 workers. So he's not been able to replenish any of his workers in this time of aggression. So although these drops have just been getting very, very few workers killed, like 2 here, 3 here, 4 here, it's been adding up to a total of about 25 workers, and Life has not had a chance to replenish his economy yet either. And so he's very starved for money at this point. And we see now that the supplies are just they're gonna fall apart very fast when Maru's 4th base starts to kick in. And from here on, Maru's multi-pronged aggression has been successful. He has done multiple 3-pronged attacks, and as a result, he's been able to secure an economic advantage from doing this kind of aggression. He was also able to scout the opener that Life was doing by seeing that very fast 4th base, and he knew that Life's Mutalisk would be a bit slow. As a result, he would be able to keep up the multi-pronged aggression for a pretty long time. Like much longer than if Mutalisks had come out, let's say, a minute quicker, because Mutalisks are the key to shutting down this aggression. Unless there are some map-friendly positions, like here, 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 that the Marines can escape to, so that the Mutalisks can't chase down the medevacs, and then the Marines can unload and fight the Mutalisks. And then Life is kind of forced to engage because Maru's right at the front door. There's not really anything Life can do except to try to engage before the 3-3 finishes. And unfortunately, he doesn't take a very good engagement. Maru's able to spread his units out just well enough. And then he's rallying across the map. To secure his win on the map Deadwing. So, very cool game, very nice macro game. There was a lot to be said, and forgot I had coffee here. So yeah, the build order will be in a Google Docs document. I'll link it below, and hopefully this video did a good job at showing you guys how Maru sets up multi-pronged points and how he uses his aggression also to he doesn't need to necessarily get damage done right away. It's more important that he gets his units set up so that when he does more aggression, then he can tack on even more aggression at once. If that makes any sense. So yeah, just trying to think of any last minute things. Oh, I will be streaming today I will start at about 7 p.m. EST and then stream for a couple hours. And any TVZs I play, I will be streaming this build as well. So if you guys have any questions or want to see it being done against maybe not necessarily the style that Life was using, but against like maybe two base Mutalisks, or what happens after Roach Bane bust occurs, or against Roach Hydra, or different kinds of Zerg styles, definitely check out my stream and I'll link it below as well. Other than that, if you guys have any other games that you might want me to go over, I'll probably go through a couple others when I have the time to create these videos. But if you have any specific ones, just let me know in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Peace out.